Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Before I'm Successful. Today's guest is the founder of the amazing clothing brand Helena Raymond. He has started this company during the last year of university and, to quote, dissertations dawned, money was tight, the prospect of joining the real world loomed. Helena Raymond was born. The funny introduction was taken from your company's website. Elliot, welcome to Before I'm Successful.
Cheers.
Alright, so I've been looking forward to this interview, and one of the main reasons is that you've actually managed to accomplish something lots of people our age are trying to do, that is start their own company. But before we get into that, how does it actually feel to be living this dream? Is it all just blue skies and wonderful and fulfilling work, or is it a more darker side to the story?
There are a lot of blue skies. I see
Right.
a lot of positivity in every step that the company takes, but obviously there are storms to avoid. Yeah, there are troubles. There are definitely troubles, but I think that it's not a balance that outweighs the
Right.
positivity.
Mhm.
I'd say most of the challenges that come our way is something that we can jump over instead of hit the wall and bounce off and try again.
Right. So if you were to choose right now between having your own company and working for a corporation or another startup?
At my age now, definitely my own company.
Right.
Absolutely, being your own boss is
It's
much
awesome,
better.
right?
Yeah, and having those challenges that you know the company needs to take, and you know take in their stride and overcome. When you're working for such a corporation, or if you're on a grad scheme, or you know something where you're quite a small cog in a big machine,
Mhm.
you feel like you don't have that responsibility on your shoulders.
Right.
Which for some people, I'm sure that's great. They
Mhm.
don't mind being a small fish in a
Mhm.
big pond.
Right.
But when you're your own boss, you feel so much better that everything you're doing has an impact on the company.
Mhm.
So it's much better that the challenges you take are not just for you but for the company.
Yeah.
And so when you get that, you make that successful challenge and you overcome it, it's that more rewarding, I'd
Mhm.
say.
So before we get into the most interesting part, as in how the company is doing, how you're running it and stuff like that, I think lots of people would be interested to see if you had this mentality since the beginning. So how were you before your company? How were you at the beginning of university? How did your mentality change and evolve throughout?
That's a really good personal question to reflect on.
So you don't have to get into the personal
Oh
stuff. You
no,
can
not
talk
at all.
about-
No, I'd say the maturity level, I suppose, through most people at university, it really blossoms. So you come into university as more or less a kid,
Right.
and you learn a lot
True.
about yourself during those 3, 4, 5 years.
Mhm.
I started it in my 3rd year at university, by which point I felt like I was that little bit more confident and more responsible.
Mhm.
That's not to say that I was at any point an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'd never studied business ever.
Mhm.
I'd never even considered starting my own company, even up until the summer before 3rd year. So I'd
Right.
never had this concept of making my own company or anything like that.
So it all started in the summer.
Yeah, more or
The
less.
first
It
thought.
started in literally the first couple of weeks of third year at university. So that's September 2017.
Right.
And essentially, I'd just seen products that were selling for more money than I deemed them to be worth, and they were going from brands either on the high street, which didn't have much of a philosophy or a backbone.
Mhm.
You didn't really know where that product had come from or where that money was going to.
Right.
And at the same time, there were also pieces that were sort of vintage but had been marked up in price for what they're worth.
Mhm.
So the style was very similar to a style that I liked, but you'd be paying far more than what it's actually worth. So I thought maybe I could see if I can replicate that style
Yeah.
for less. And
Yeah.
it just started with
Mhm.
friends. And then I just got encouraged basically to see if I could turn that into a slightly bigger project, start turning some money, and by October, the end of October, it was an incorporated company, and
What a journey.
I had to go very quickly from there. Yeah. But-
So what do you think about today's generation, their focus on university? Because you had the courage to start your own company when everybody else is focusing on their dissertations and their final year projects. So the last year is the most, let's say, complicated one.
Yeah.
And no one wants to do anything else besides that. How did you do it?
I might just be foolish or just undermine the importance of third year, because it is a lot of money. If you're an international student, it's obscene amounts of money.
It is.
As a UK student, it's still, the final year is worth 75%, and in terms of money, that's like 20 grand, 25 grand. So
yeah,
when you put it like that for tuition, you think, I really do need to make sure university goes well.
Mm-hmm.
But I never went to university knowing I am going for the degree.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was going for the journey. And like I said, you go into university like a boy almost, and you grow into a man at the time that you get that independence, responsibility. And I knew that I needed to get more than just a degree. So in terms of extracurricular activities, I always put those quite high in my regard. And it wasn't just study, it wasn't 9 to 5 in the library and then get home, eat and go back into the library. I wasn't about that. And I respect people that do that.
Yeah.
But I look back now, having graduated last July, and I don't regret emphasising other things other than my degree. I ended up getting a 2-1, happy to say that on the record, which I was chuffed to bits with. But I don't look back and think, I should have gone to the library more to get a first, because everything that I've learnt in my time away from the library, in the business, in extracurricular activities, it outweighs the idea of a degree so much more.
So extracurricular stuff is what actually helped you get to where you are right now with your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the elements of personal qualities are definitely something that are more useful in the real world.
Yeah.
I don't think a piece of paper that says you've got a first or a 2-1, or even the content that you learn during your degree is all that valuable when you leave.
Right.
And it is like the bubble almost bursts, after the 3 years or 4 years, you've got your degree. But
what do you do now?
What else have you got? What else can you offer people? What else can you do with your time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those, extracurricular activities, any other projects, any voluntary work, starting your own company, that's all a real big element of your life that you can add to the degree.
Especially starting your own company.
Starting your own company is definitely one of those things that people look and think, okay.
How did you do it?
Yeah, what you did.
That's what we want to find out. So those other things that you did, were they business oriented or just anything else?
I've worked like part-time work and things like that.
Yeah.
Various different types of work. Most sort of classic things like bar or retail. Lots of people do that. And I think there are useful skills that are professional skills, so they do transfer into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, definitely.
Other things, I was always a sportsman, always liked playing sports. Yeah. Basketball, ended up being club captain of the basketball team here at the uni. Yeah, so I reached club captain.
Nice.
That was in my third year as well. It was a busy third year.
It seems like you did everything.
It was a really busy third year. I spent most of the first year and second year just partying, to be honest. But
well, that helped. Social skills.
Oh, massively. Social skills and just letting off that steam. It's good to relax. But when it came down to it, I knew that third year was always going to be a time that it's like, okay, get your head down.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. In my eyes, it wasn't just about get your head down on the degree. It's try and focus on what you've come to university for, which isn't just partying. It's about developing as a person, getting a degree and other transferable skills that you can work.
Right.
So yeah, sports and things. That's obviously leadership, communications. These are all you can definitely transfer that across anything that you do.
Yeah.
I definitely say that shaped me into the person that was starting the company in October 2017. Without those skills that I'd learned in the previous 2 years, I don't think I'd have had the confidence or the courage to just say, you know what, let's do this. Let's go for this challenge. So I was glad that I had everything else other than just the studying.
Yeah.
On my side. Yeah.
So, in my opinion, and in Csongor's opinion as well, one of the most important things you can do to help in this entrepreneurial side of a person is to read books about this or about other things like personal growth and stuff like that. If we are to talk about books now, which are, let's say, the top 3 your favorite books?
Favorite books?
Yeah, the ones that helped you the most.
Ones that helped me.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the order is less relevant than books.
Okay, there are 3 books which aren't useful for anything, but it's when you can just escape.
Yeah.
And you can just take your mind off everything. So when times are stressful, which without a doubt during 3rd year I was starting a company, club captain of basketball, and trying to write a dissertation.
Trying to.
Having that element of escapism was definitely needed, and the Stieg Larsson trilogy, definitely my favourite. So that's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Okay.
Swedish Scandi crime, dark, but something that actually captures you and escapes you from reality. So nothing to do with business whatsoever.
So when did you read that book? In the last year as well?
I reread them during my 3rd year. I'd already read them before, during a few years before, and they're relatively old-ish, but definitely got to be in my top 3, just purely based on the fact that if you've had a stressful day, bang, you're out, and it's just switch off. Other books, I'm a bit of a strange person in that I don't tend to read what I find useful. I tend to read what I find interesting.
Right.
So there are books on savant syndrome. This is a strange, quite unusual condition in which people with either autism or some form of brain damage pick up these unbelievable skills.
Right.
Photographic memory, unbelievable artistic skills.
Yeah.
Rain Man is a film that people.
So he
was a savant.
One of them.
And I read countless books on savant syndrome, which were obviously, they're not fictional. They're very medical in a lot of senses. But I wasn't a medic. I had no. It was just an interest, and I don't think that they're particularly useful now. But I think I'd say that I couldn't name one of them, but I'd say that in top 3 that has to be one. Purely based on the fact that I think it's so important to do something, to learn about things that you're interested in, not that you feel you have to do. A lot of people read books because they feel like it will help them in some form or another, which is completely each to their own.
Yeah.
I don't read books purely based on the fact that I think they're useful. So the first one would be the Stieg Larsson trilogy because of the escapism. Second one would be anything based on that savant syndrome as an example, because during my time at university I wanted to learn more than just what was in my degree, and I think that really rounds you as a person.
Yeah.
Thirdly, if there was actually something useful, or I'm trying to think. I'm going through lots of autobiographies that I found.
What about? Okay. So
there's a lot of different people.
So is there a person that inspired you the most? Yeah, the one person that inspired you the most.
I couldn't name one.
Okay.
I couldn't name one based on what I've read. I could, in terms of people, in terms of entrepreneurship business, there's a really interesting, it's a film, but it's based obviously on a truth called The Founder, based on McDonald's. Yeah. And if I look back in the last sort of couple of years at one individual that you think, yeah, you did pretty good out of that, it's definitely based on that story and how McDonald's went, essentially how it franchised and ended up being what is now one of the most successful companies in history. So
he started just a small idea. It was concept. Yeah, and he made it what it is now. Yeah. Pretty much what you did with your company. It started all as something small. Essentially,
something very small that just started to blossom. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't very book related, but in terms
it was helpful. This is what we're looking for. Okay, this question comes from the fact that you started your own company, as you said, in the last year of university. How did you manage to juggle the company, the exams, the dissertation? Do you have a daily routine that helps you get stuff done, everything you want to do?
No, I don't have a routine. I know that's not the answer. I know, absolutely. 100%.
That's a good answer.
That was not the answer you were looking for. No, I don't have a routine as such. Not during third year anyway, because everyone knows, that you can go 4 or 5 weeks without having anything to do. You can just bumble your way along.
Yeah.
And I say bumble away, I mean, type a few, go to lectures, do a bit of project work. And then suddenly there are 4 deadlines. Anything.
Due tomorrow.
God. So it's like, okay, well, I don't sleep for 2 days. Yeah. I never did that, by the way. In fact, in terms of going against the grain here, during university, I didn't go to the library after 10 p.m. once, I think.
Yeah.
No. Mm-hmm. So I valued sleep. I'd much rather get up at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I think basketball training definitely helped that routine. So I trained 3 or 4 times a week.
Right.
And 1 or 2 of those days would be 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. So you get into the habit of being a morning person and attacking the day. Yeah, exactly. With some exercise. Exactly. So exercise is good, that's one thing. In terms of routine though, no. I wouldn't say I had a structured routine that do this. But I definitely valued, it's really elementary advice, but 3 meals, absolute must, at regular meal times. I know so many people at university that just ignore that.
Absolutely.
And it's something that your parents would have said as a kid, but
eat your vegetables.
Yeah, eat your veg, get your sleep. But honestly, 3 meals and actually, not working after a certain amount of time so you can switch off, refresh your mind, get the sleep, go again. And I think so many students are so bad at that. I'm not sure if it's pressure that they put themselves under or, exterior pressures, but definitely too many people staying up way too late doing work.
They're not focusing on health.
Yeah. And it goes downhill very quickly for a lot of people, and I think that is something that, I wouldn't say it's a routine, but having a habit of 3 meals and getting sleep it's as basic as it gets. And drinking water. Drinking as much water as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So even though you're not a bodybuilder or stuff like that, you still have to focus on all of this, because if your health is going downhill, then you're done.
At the end of the day, health has to come first.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, anywhere in the world, health comes first.
Right.
So I think, even if you're the most driven, smartest, most creative person as a young person amongst your friends, unless you're looking after yourself, you're not going to get to see that full potential. I'd say health comes first. Yeah. That's not much routine, but it's good generic advice.
Okay, so let's start talking about your company. So while I was researching it, I saw something really interesting.
Yep.
The fact that you are not going about it in the usual way, as in you're not so business focused, profits focused. Mm-hmm. You're trying to help other people. You're the charity you're working with right now, it's called Calm.
Yes.
CALM.
Yes. Calm.
And you're bringing your fabric, the ones used for all of the products from Italy.
Yeah.
Instead of China or India or someplace where it's cheaper.
So a lot of it's done in Italy. There are some products that we still have that are made in Honduras, but they're from an ethical background. Essentially, they're using wind-powered factories. They're on a good wage. They're not come from the mystery places in China that that so many places seem to have. So no, they are currently ethically sourced, and you're absolutely right with the charity side of things. It's something that I think when you're starting a business, you need to actually think about what it's going to do. And I know that sounds really, really stupid, but in terms of what it's going to do for other people, don't just think about yourself, don't think about the money, don't think about the entity itself, but what impact that is going to have on the people that are going to buy it and the people that are going to see it. Mm-hmm. I think that element of sort of social responsibility is something that definitely resonates within my demographic.
Mm-hmm.
So the company aims largely at students, and I think the prevalence of mental health, illness, and essentially, the awareness itself is huge in young populations and students.
Yeah.
So having something that is trying to conquer the stigma and raise for a suicide prevention charity is something that resonates in that student community.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is the product itself designed for students, but the brand itself is designed for students to recognise and designed for students to be able to resonate with the message that we're portraying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew that even though we've been doing this, so the charity side of things, since the start of 2019, we organised it December 2018. So we'd been running for a year or so by that point. But I'd always had in mind, based on our brand motto, don't just look good, feel good. I'd always had that direction in mind. And I think it is so important to try and find a message that really strikes with your demographic. And so it's not just build money, get as many profits as you can. Cut that profit margin and make sure that people know what your brand is, and they'll come back. The money will come in. It'll work itself out.
You know what, I don't think there are that many companies like yours, so that makes you pretty special, the fact that you're not focusing just on profit. And I took a look over your products, and they are really cheap for what, and they offer quality material. And
that's the other side of it. I think in a lot of the, I could say competitors, the larger companies, there are a lot more people, and there is a much bigger marketing budget. So a lot of that money is just going on getting a quick sale now. It's money that is obviously coming from somewhere, that in terms of where their profit margins are. So they're obviously going to lose a little bit of quality. And they're obviously then going to try and market that as much as they can. If you just try and essentially shrink the marketing budget a little bit, and find something that people will remember and they'll come back to you, then it does itself. The marketing does itself. So you can lose a little bit of the overall cost and maintain profit margins, because I'm the only one working there. Marketing budget isn't as big as a lot of the competitors, but people are still recognising the brand and still coming back. So yeah, I think the competitors are obviously of a similar price, but the quality may be lower. And in terms of where that money is going, a large portion will go to marketing.
Right. So you're doing something really interesting. You chose to go with unisex clothing, plus the logos, the designs are really minimalistic.
Yes.
How is the market responding to that, and how do you come up with all these cool designs? By the way, guys, you have to check them out. Their designs are really, really awesome.
Thank you. Good shout out there. So I think a large proportion of the style in the last 2 or 3 years has really shifted to a sort of gender neutral perspective. So, if you want a sweatshirt, you can essentially just alter the size. It makes no difference if you're a girl or a guy. You can share that style, and it's just a difference in standardized sizing. You asked about the logo. The logo is something. It's recognizable. It's distinct. It's quite simple. I designed it in about 30 seconds on a free trial app.
Okay.
If you look at the logo itself, you'll actually. It's a lot of circles. There's black and white circles that I've just overlaid over each other to make the koala. And I'm not even kidding. It was literally on a free app, and I liked it, and it stuck, and now it's recognisable around Selly Oak everywhere. So
people know how they say
they know what it is.
The best ideas come like this.
Yeah, honestly, it was. Lots of people. In fairness, there are graphic designers out there who can make awesome logos and make it, very distinguishable logo, and you can pay good money for that. But I literally did did.
You did.
30 seconds on an app. So no disrespect to graphic designers, because I know your profession is so good, but for logos, I just wanted something that you can depict quite quickly. Although you do get the panda/koala question mark, which I don't mind. But koalas in themselves, the reason the koala was because they're quite kindred spirits. So in a lot of like symbolism, they're quite respected and deemed to be like a family, like an overlooking spirit that will care for one another and have each other's back. So in terms of the koala itself, I think it's really cool that if you look into koalas and the symbolism of koala, it does actually resonate with what we're trying to do in supporting the charity Calm and in trying to raise awareness for mental health and saying, you know, we've got your back.
Yeah.
And the other designs, a lot of it
the
is...
pineapple, for instance.
The pineapple. Probably noticed, you got the little...
You got it there. Okay.
Little pineapple tattoo.
So it's a more personal stuff, the pineapple.
The pineapple one is... largely, I love pineapples for a start. That's all fine.
They taste good.
It tastes great. Very good for your health. But no, they're actually just a really... I mean, look at apple, okay? It is an apple. But you would recognise that. It's gone from a fruit, and you would recognise that anywhere in the world, that logo, and it's just an apple. I'm not just copying Apple. I think, let's do it with the pineapple.
I mean, it works if it works here.
I'm not doing that. But it's something that you recognise straight away, and it's simple, and it's distinguishable. And I think there's sort of designs that are clear-cut, crisp, easy to recognise, minimal. Most clothing brands have something that is very simple.
Yeah.
And, you know, those sort of designs that you see make it easy for people to immediately recognise and relate to.
Yeah, something that represents them.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
So most of the designs there is something for everyone. There's, you know, different elements. You've got chameleons, like I said, the pineapples. There's something that, in terms of personal interests, there are designs that people can think, yeah, you know what, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's me. And so, yeah, I think it's just about getting that sort of individual take on it. And because we've got so many different designs, it's fairly easy for someone to find something that's fairly unique to them. So it's not custom, but it's certainly close. You know, there aren't many of those designs out there. So it's something that you can...
You have options as a customer. You can choose something that defines you.
Absolutely. On top of that, you can choose the colour of the garment itself with the design
you can
itself.
Do that.
Yeah. So if you like the pineapple but you don't want it on white, you want it on green, you do that. You can choose that.
That's cool.
So there's an element of custom,
which
again means there's an element of individuality, which means that as a consumer you can come along and think, yeah, that's me.
That's for me. That makes me special.
That's done. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, let's go back a bit. So your company is involved with mental issues, and it seems that nowadays most of these issues appear at the beginning of university for many people. Yeah. And throughout university it becomes, for most people, even worse. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's the case, first of all, and why do you think that is?
So it's now reported, you know, it's in plenty of research, that the prevalence of mental illness is increasing in young people at university. And that has been quite a step up in the occurrence. Whether or not that's because of the awareness in terms of how many people are now stepping forward and saying, I'm struggling, instead of just suffering in silence, or whether it's because there is genuinely an increase in the illness occurrence. It's hard to tell why that would be, but I'd have to say that the stress that university puts you under, not just by academia but socially, really makes people suffer. I think that mental image of what university in your first year is means that for a lot of people it's going out partying, not sleeping, not looking after yourself, and before you know it you're in a slump and you're struggling. And I think for me personally, that was definitely the case. I think the first 2 years of university, I spent far too much time trying to be that sociable character than actually looking after myself. That there came a point where it was like, okay, this is trouble, and I know that I'm sure there are friends out there who would say the same, but haven't felt that they could open up about it.
Right.
And I'd also say that, you know, there are a lot of people out there who don't have that. I wouldn't say the courage, but have the understanding that what they're doing is suffering, and what they're doing is really self-destructive in not taking a step back, looking after yourself, and trying to open up and talk about it. So the whole reason that the mental health thing went essentially into the backbone of our company is because I know that so many students out there do suffer, and I think that in just getting a message across that it's okay, you know, people suffer with students, and aiming at the student demographic, it does mean that people are talking. You know, we're fighting stigma, and I think that's a huge element of why we donate to CUT and why we promote the mental health side of things, is because the demographic we're aiming at do need to just, you know, shake the stigma off, talk about it. If you're struggling, talk about it. And I think trying to portray that wherever we can is really the core philosophy of our brand. So ignoring the money, the profits, the turnover, it's, you know, are we doing something that really influences the people that are buying from us?
So let's just assume that right now there is someone that's going through something and it's watching this. Do you have a message for them, something that can help them, a book or something they can do? Anything relating to that?
I remember 2 books when I was really struggling. Perks of Being a Wallflower, really good book.
Okay.
And there's a bestseller a couple of years ago. Reasons to Stay Alive, I think it was called. Sounds quite dark, but it's actually a really enlightening read. Read those 2 if you can. But talk. You know, friends really do. If you picture yourself and a friend is struggling, you'd want them to talk to you, and it works. Absolutely. It works both ways. And I think so many people are wrapped up in what their image should be, that they forget to even think about what's actually on the inside. And so, you know, they're too busy thinking about looking good that they're not feeling good.
Yeah,
there's the pun. So yeah, talk.
Just talk. So guys, as a side note, all these books you're gonna be able to find them in the description below if you're interested in them, and I feel like they're gonna help you.
They will.
Okay. So before starting your company, I know that there are lots of people that want to do that, and there is this concept of blue ocean, as in trying to create your own niche in order to start your company, but you can do that even before you manage to find a blue ocean or to create a blue ocean. And did you test your idea in any way before actually implementing it? So,
like I said, I started with friends, so I knew the designs and I could see them. So on Depop, in the high street. In fact, I think Topshop's autumn winter. Yeah, their autumn winter season had so many products that were literally sweatshirts embroidered logo, and so if they're doing it,
it must be.
We can do it. That's fine. So there's an element of testing there, and then just testing the waters with friends. So between that, I suppose it was only about 6-7 weeks of essentially thinking of that concept before incorporating it as a company. In those 7 weeks, selling to friends, checking that I could make them, and checking that it was feasible, definitely made it a little bit easier to then have the confidence to dive in and do it.
Okay. So how do you actually do it? How do you actually start your own company? Because I know there are lots of people that want to do this, but they don't know what the first step is because it seems so complicated. You have to come up with the idea, you have to be talking with the investors, you have to be doing lots and lots of research. It's not easy. What's the first step in your opinion? Or the first few steps?
So the step that I first took was get the product. So know what the product is, know what the product is there for. So with that, know the market.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just tell from the people around me how much money was happily being spent on fashion, fast fashion, and on brands that don't really have much of a story or a backbone. You kind of you buy it for the logo, and you don't really know what that means or where that goes. And especially on a lot of the sites, the fast fashion sites, people happily just click spend, and not really think about it. So I knew that people were spending money, and I knew that they were spending money on products like the one I had. So obviously there was a market there. Whether or not there's much of the market to share was a little unknown, but that's when I just started testing the waters. In terms of setting up, in terms of investment, I was lucky in that the university granted me £1,000, so that was just, there's a lump to invest
in. So be enterprises or?
Be enterprising.
Yeah.
So I applied for the Ideas Fund, got a grant of £1,000, and that really was the start of it. I'd got an idea of the products, but now I could actually get them cheaper and go into the full concept of production, and try to sell them. So that's the next thing. If you're selling something, you need to know where you're selling it. I largely used Depop, still do use Depop, quite a lot, and that was before it was really saturated with a lot of vintage markets and things, but it has meant now that we're one of the larger sellers on Depop, and people can see, there's good reviews, there's a lot of sales gone through, so we're trusted now. It's quite hard to start on Depop now without working 14-hour days on your phone, just trying to get a following and trying to get reviews, and it's a lot of hard work. But knowing where you're selling, it's crucial. It sounds really basic, but actually knowing where you're going to sell, because if you think you've got a product, if it be it tangible or not, if you just think I'm going to set up a website and people are going to come to my website and people are going to buy it, it doesn't work like that. You need to know where you're going, how it's going to sell. So
it's not that simple.
So well, it does sound really basic, but get your product, know what your product is, know who's going to buy it, and step 2, know how you're going to sell it. You can think about investment, you can think about business plans, you can think about scaling up the first 3 months into the first 6 months, the first year, but you need to walk before you fly. So trying to get those aspirations, it's great, set those targets, but be aware that you're going to have to adapt, because if you think, I'm going to sell 100 things on my website here in the next month, it hits home quite hard that people aren't going to just rock up to your website. So you need to be malleable. You need to try and bend and know where you're going to get the next few sales from, because if you're not just getting it on the website, you need to know where your next step is. Which again, I know it sounds fairly elementary, but it's things that people just don't consider. It's great having this product or vision of how it's going to be in a year's time, or this success story, but actually generating those first few steps, trying to build, the plans adapt. So it might take 4 or 5 different places to try and sell, or different markets, or different campaigns to try and generate those sales, and it does take time, it does take money to be able to to find something that works.
Yeah.
So don't expect yourself to, step one, get the product, step two, sell it.
And you're done. That's it.
It's not that simple. Once you've got the product and you think that there is a spot in the market, it's how you get into the market.
Yeah.
You don't just straight line
Mm-hmm.
walk on in, say, here's my product, please buy it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to really wriggle and crawl to try and get a little nibble off the lion's share.
Absolutely.
And I mean a little nibble. You've got to really, really nibble away to get a tiny little bit. And then eventually when people are, it's just about trusting your product and trusting your philosophy. So it only takes 1 sale or 10 sales before they're talking to people and people ask them, where did you get that from? Or, where do you use that? Or anything like that. And then they're talking, and then they're talking, and then they're talking. So it spreads exponentially. If you've got something that is working, if your product is good and your philosophy is good, people will remember you.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to trust that process, which is where I think it lies quite hard with the philosophy that we're sharing. It resonates. Our demographic knows and relates to it. So you've got to trust that if you can just get those few sales going and really push hard and wriggle to get the ball rolling, they'll actually do a lot of that marketing for you. Sales will come back in, repeat buyers will come back in. But it just, it takes time. You've got to really try and make sure that those first few sales are working and you're doing the right thing. So once you've got the product and you know that the philosophy and the product is good, wriggle for that first nibble.
So it is how they say that the best product is the one that does its advertising by itself because it's so good.
Yeah, and that is
So if you are to take a step back right now, do you remember how the first month was? How did it unroll? What happened exactly?
I remember the day that I got the letter from Company's House saying you've registered this company. It's like what? And it says director.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well,
damn, I'm that
this
big
is
now.
This is it. I'm a CEO. It doesn't work like that. I didn't feel like a big fish then, but it was serious. And I do remember thinking I definitely had in my head visions of the success and how it's going to get there, but it just doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of chopping and changing of plans, of campaigns, of the product itself to get something that people will repeat buy and the story will tell itself. The first couple of months, or sort of the run up to Christmas, was really just about establishing where I'm going to sell and trying to get the presence there. So like I said, Depop was the place for me that we really need to push, because a lot of the users, the demographic there is matching our demographic. It's a lot of students, a lot of young people, and the markup is higher than eBay.
Yeah.
There's no listing fees or anything like that, which at the time there wasn't eBay. So all there was a commission basis. So I knew that, okay, I'm going to try and get the ball rolling here. We're going to try and get a few sales through Depop when there are reviews on Depop as well, which is a massive impact on the consumerism.
Yeah.
When people can trust it, you see 5 stars, people have bought the same product or a similar product and they're happy with it. That tells itself. So once you've got those going and the followers are coming in and the reviews are coming in, then you know that you're getting somewhere, you're making progress. But until that point, it's really a lot of hours of just trying to grow and grind.
Make it so.
Yeah, and so the first 2 months was, I don't even want to know what my screen time was. It is true though. It's a horribly, almost unhealthy habit, but it kind of had to be done because obviously the company it's an e-commerce business. So you've got to have screen time. If there's only one person at the time of startup, it's like, this is my own company. No one else is going to do it for you. Yeah. So you've got to put those hours in. So there's a lot of following and planning campaigns and getting Instagram sorted, getting the Facebook sorted. and just hoping,
Hoping. Yeah, that's the
hoping
word.
that somewhere amongst doing that, you're going to pick up a few sales and people are going to start talking about it.
Mhm.
A large part of the first few months was trying to get Selly Oak on board. So
Mhm.
as a student in Birmingham, Selly Oak's a massive student community.
Yeah.
If you can sort of get people talking in Selly Oak, because it's a student community, they're also going to tell friends from other universities, friends from wherever their back home is. So it's a really good networking
Mhm. It's
ability.
becoming exponential.
Yeah. So getting things in front of their eye line really was where I had to go with it.
Mhm.
And so that's, you know, trusting my friends, my peers, that like, look what I'm doing,
Yeah.
please talk about it, and go from there. So that was the first few months, definitely a lot of time on social media and a lot of time just trying to get people talking about it.
Mhm.
And from there, that's how the sales sort of, you got to have faith that the sales will come with that.
Mhm.
You know, as you increase the brand awareness, the brand exposure, sales will come in. And
Right.
like I said, when they get the product, they're happy with the product, they're happy with the philosophy, they'll talk, they'll tell their friends or their family. And then you have to have faith that
It's gonna work.
they're going to come back. And
Yeah.
that's how it started. And that's how the first sort of few months went, really. I mean, pretty much up until my dissertation time, pretty much until, you know, when it was finals, I had to just, I wouldn't say calm it down, but I definitely spent a lot less time on those things like social media and, you know, getting it in the eye line of people.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was finals. I
Yeah,
did
you had
kind
to-
of, I
you
had
had
to
to
get
do
the
it.
degree.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't lose my head with this concept, this startup. You know, I had to stay fairly grounded. But once that was out of the way, and graduation was summer 2018, then it was really attack again. And everything that I'd done in the previous sort of 8 months or so was really just trying to get that brand exposure out there, getting the Depop
Mhm.
reviews in and
Mhm.
getting the Instagram followers up and just trying to make sure that people are seeing what I'm doing. Which then meant when I started full time in the summer 2018, there was a foundation already laid
Mhm.
that I could build on and try and get the snowball effect from there,
Yeah.
which it did.
Out of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
how much time did you spend on your dissertation, if at all?
In fairness to myself, I actually I think I finished the dissertation with 70%. I spent a lot of time in labs because it was a practical dissertation. I did material science,
Mhm.
so a lot of time in labs and on computers and doing weird imaging and things. So for a large part of February and March, I'd probably spend about 6 hours a day,
Okay.
I'd say. And then the rest of the time was either doing, in fact at that point, basketball I packed in by February. So then, yeah, dissertation really took priority. It was 6 hours a day, and startup probably the rest of the time.
And it worked, even though you didn't spend.
Oh, it worked. I didn't absolutely slave at it. The one thing that I would say is that with the dissertation, I got as much done as I could before Christmas.
Mhm.
So I got as much of the reading. I
Mhm.
read and read and read and read.
Mhm.
And it was in a subject I really wasn't academically prepared for.
Right.
I'd never studied anything remotely close to aerospace engineering, and that was what my dissertation was in. So a lot of reading there, but I got as much done as I could by Christmas, so that I knew that in February or March time the stress wouldn't be boiling over, and I didn't force myself to the library for 12-hour days.
Mhm.
I think it's just that time management.
Right.
That was the key, I think, to running business
Yeah.
and dissertation and the basketball side of things. I think it's just time management and avoiding that stress.
It's interesting that you've managed to accomplish all of this and keep your health up as well. It's
Yeah.
as you said, it's all about time and management.
Yeah.
So, it's been about 2 years since you started the company.
Yeah,
Um,
thereabouts. Yeah, about between 18 months to
18 months. And if you are to look back right now, would you
Hmm.
do anything different? Would you tackle the whole issue in a different way?
There are certain elements in the company that I wish I just kept my confidence higher and and just throw myself in a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm really chuffed that I did the dissertation and I balanced everything really well. And it was a really tricky time because it's the third year of university. So balancing everything was crucial, and I couldn't put all my time into the company.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back, I do think there were maybe a few more hours that I could have squeezed in. I think that's me just being quite critical.
Mm-hmm.
And there were also elements like, so the company was founded in October 2017, and it took until pretty much December 2018 for me to finally be registered as a corporation, the corporate donor for the charity.
Yeah.
So I wish that we'd have done that beforehand, because it would have meant a lot of the foundation that we were laying would have been even stronger. You know, we were promoting mental health awareness as much as we could, but we really wanted to bring action to that motto: don't just look good, feel good. And I think supporting the charity has really struck home for a lot of people. And it is, you know, people are seeing that we are genuinely making a difference and trying to help our consumers. So I'd have said, yeah, if I could have got involved with the charity a little bit beforehand, that would have been the only thing that I'd have done differently. Other than that,
So you've done lots of things the right way.
yeah, a lot has gone the right way. I think the thing is, in the first sort of couple of months, I think the main thing is that in doing the dissertation and having other commitments, I could never let my aspirations for the company get too high. So I never expected to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was a dreamer, don't get me wrong. I absolutely dreamed of it getting to somewhere like this, but I wouldn't dwell on that. I wouldn't think, oh, you know, I'll be turning over hundreds of £1,000s in no time and I'm going to be a millionaire. And, you know, starting your own company is not, you are not going to be rich in the first like couple of 3-4 years. You can't let that get to you. It doesn't work like that. So I think staying grounded was needed, and that's why I'd say I did a lot of things right, because I didn't get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Which also meant that I didn't lose the motivation. I wasn't disappointed, which meant that I could keep building and building. It wasn't like I expect to be here and now I'm here and what do I do now?
Yeah.
It was about just baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
So what's the future of the company right now? What are the future plans, or do you want to talk about anything else regarding the company?
So things have really taken off probably in the last 6 months. We've managed to get in supporting the charity that we support, and incorporating this element of social responsibility. We have opened up a lot of new doors,
right?
Which has also meant that we could be doing better. We could exploit these opportunities and really grow.
Mm-hmm.
Which direction exactly we're going to take, we still don't know. There are new markets that we have the door open to. It's whether or not we decide to walk through and go that way. None of them will be a gamble. It might just be something that we try and it doesn't work, and we'll just turn around, come back and go down the corridor again.
Yeah.
I'd say that, interestingly, in the last 6 months, maybe I think about 20 to 25% of our consumers are Italian. So
I mean, that's no surprise. Your fabric is from there.
Yeah, we have got quite a bit of. It does make sense, yeah, but even so, we don't. Being a UK company and everything about the company is targeted to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, English is an international language, but even so, having a quarter of the target demographic is wasn't anticipated like that. You know, we wanted, in my head, I wouldn't say wanted, but we planned for, I don't know, 90% to be English, and instead it's 25% just Italian. That's before you even look at other EU countries or around the world. So
why do you think that happened?
Why?
Yeah.
I'd say I probably know quite a large reason why. So on, I think it was November of last year or October of last year, we got featured on Svetcoin.
Okay.
This is a huge potential business, massive potential. They've got millions of users, but on the same weekend that we featured on the campaign, they launched in Italy. And obviously we were retargeting the audience for that campaign, and it just so happened that because of the launch in Italy, we had hundreds of thousands of Italians coming to the website, which then meant
hundreds of thousands,
like literally it lasted. We had a 4-day campaign then, and then another 4-day campaign, and I think that the traffic total was for that month about 100,000. So
100,000 for that month for your website. Well, okay.
which explains why so many Italians because they launched in Italy. But now that because the launch is over and it's just sort of leveled out again. We still get plenty of Italians, but over if you look at the last year, there's obviously a big influx of Italians for whatever reason. I'd also say that because of that Svetcoin campaign, we actually managed to feature over and over and over again, and now I've shipped to 30 plus countries. So it's become quite a worldwide thing without me even realizing.
Because the product is so good.
It is all the product. No, it's actually the sole reason that we got so successful with that was because of the message we're portraying. Networking can never ever be overestimated or undermined. Knowing people and essentially communicating with people on a personal level is so crucial for a business to succeed. I think the way that we got spotted for Svetcoin was through Instagram, and it was one of their market managers that I think overlooked the EU market, spotted our brand and liked the message that we were portraying, and dropped an email saying, look, I really like this, how do you fancy getting involved with something we do? I thought, this is an opportunity, let's go with it. I had no anticipation of what it would mean, and we just went for it, and since then every month we've been featured, and the average is probably about 30,000 website hits for the weekend that we're featured. Damn. And that's usually once or twice a month. So
that's
when you're looking at a startup, it's big numbers, and that is purely based on the fact that the philosophy that we are trying to portray is appreciated. We have something that people understand, people resonate with, and that has opened up the doors. If we didn't, I would say it's luck, and lots of people say, oh, you're so lucky that you got featured there. Loads of brands could have done that, but they didn't. We did, and it's because of what we're doing and our philosophy. If we didn't have that philosophy, we wouldn't have been spotted. Simple as that. So I think that element of social responsibility really is huge.
So now that you know the Italians are really interested in your product, did your vision or the way you're marketing the product change in any way? You adapting to this new?
We are adapting based on, like I said, that Svetcoin campaign. Since then, we have tried to, I would say, just become a little bit more approachable. Obviously, I'm native English, so a lot of the
you look Italian, so that's okay.
I will go with it. But with English being my mother tongue, I know that I speak fast, and I know that it can be quite colloquial. And I know that will probably portray through the styles and platforms on the website, on our Depop, on Instagram. I think since then we've tried to sort of make it a little bit more accessible so that people can understand what we're saying. Just trying to make it not necessarily basic English, but just a little bit friendlier to those that it's not their first language. And I think that just means that it's easier to communicate with, for example, the Italians or the rest of the EU market that have their own languages and English is only their second language. I think, just trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly for them.
Okay.
So that they're not asking, what does this mean? What are you saying? And what do you do?
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so I think that's a big part of it. But other than that, we haven't changed that much because what we've done has been successful. So we don't want to change too much because we're doing something right.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we continue to grow the rate that we've been growing, I imagine we'll try to just maintain that element of accessibility because it's becoming an international brand and not just English.
Plus your philosophy is really inspiring.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I think that really does resonate not only within our UK demographic. When I first started, it was just looking at students. And in fact, when I very first started, it was students in Birmingham. But it clearly is something worldwide that everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoys reading and learning about what we're doing. I don't think we've had one negative message about what we're trying to portray. And so I think that again helps where we're going in terms of the international side of things. It is crucial that people can understand what we're saying, but it's even more important that they like it and they recognise it and they can relate to it. And I think that is the case worldwide.
Okay, Elliot, so for each of our interviews, we're going to have the same two final questions. The first one is inspired from Stoicism, and the next one is a challenge for our audience that's going to help them evolve their lives for the next 7 days. So something they can implement for the next 7 days. All right, the first question would be, if you had 24 hours left to live, just 24 hours, what would you do?
Do I have money?
You have money, you have a plane, you have whatever you want.
I'd jump on a plane and go to Iceland.
Iceland?
I'd go to Iceland.
Okay.
And I'd walk for a day. And then I'd have a party at the night and a really good meal and drink lots of wine.
What meal?
Ooh.
Do you want steak?
Yeah, I would say steak, but then veganism and I don't know, am I killing the planet?
Yeah.
No, if it was me, I'd jump on a plane. I'd go to somewhere like Iceland. I'd go somewhere beautiful. I'd walk for a long time. I'd walk for the day until I was really tired. And maybe even had a little nap. I might even have a nap. 1 day left to live, you say you go to sleep, but I might have a little 20-minute power nap.
Yeah.
And then
Those are the best.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna have some wine and a lovely meal and a little party. And I'll go to bed and I'll look back and think, that was a good day.
That was a good 24 hours.
That was a good day. Yeah.
All right, the next one, 7 days.
I'd do the same, but 7 times over.
Okay. And the last one, this is going to be a bit more complicated because it's 3 years. So in 3 years' time...
Can't do that for 3 years, can you?
Yeah. I mean, you can if you want to, but you've got a lot of time.
I would like to travel. Obviously, I think everyone would really quite like to see the world. 3 years is a good amount of time. If I've got jet and money, then that's good. But I think I'd learn as many languages as I could. I really enjoy languages. And I think I really enjoy communicating with people in something other than English. I feel arrogant when I speak English to people who don't speak English very well. I think this is a very British thing to do. So I'd learn languages and I'd travel and I'd speak to people in their native language.
Do you have a language in your mind? The first one you start with.
Where would I start? I might start in South America, so I think picking up Spanish and Portuguese would probably go first.
Yeah, I do the same.
Yeah. I think it'd be pretty cool just to head down there. I'd like to see as many nature preserves as possible, and I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do that too now.
I think going down, see the Amazon. I'd like to go all the way down to Argentina. I'd like to see Antarctica. This plane is going to rack up some serious miles. It's going to run on eco.
It is, definitely.
And stuff.
Sun.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I'd like to go to see Africa, I'd like to do a safari. Yeah, I'd like to just see the world and speak, importantly speak in there. So I'd have to stay at each place long enough to learn. I could do that in a month at a time. And that'd probably rack up good enough.
Yeah, 3 years, fantastic.
3 years, a month at a time, learn new language every month.
Exactly.
And see the world.
You're gonna understand the world so much differently.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what I do, yeah.
Now to the challenge. The challenge, something that you think helped you the most. So something that you've implemented, for instance, that you feel helped you the most.
Oh, it's tough. You know, there's lots of things. You can say exercise. Okay. I could say exercise, but that's quite generic. Do you know what I'd actually say the most? Is do 5 minutes of nothing. Absolutely nothing. No screens, no phone, no emails. You know, in business there's always something that can be done. And I think people forget that if there's always an infinite list of tasks, that they forget to just think. And you can't create a concept that hasn't been thought of or implement a new strategy that is entirely different if you're constantly doing something. So do nothing for 5 minutes a day.
Do nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can sit, you can stand, you can be inside or outside, but just do nothing.
The irony is that in today's world, doing nothing is really a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There is always something. There's always something to do, somewhere to be. And you know, with social media, there's always noise. There's a constant update. You're never ever living just peace.
Yeah.
Nothing. Peace. Nothing. So yeah, do nothing for 5 minutes every day, and you start to just know a little bit more about what you want and where you're going, and what your real aspirations are, and knowing if what you're doing is making a difference. Because sometimes I can work for 2 months at a time, and it'll just be constant, and then you just forget.
I absolutely love that. Elliot, thank you so much for taking the time,
You're
and I
welcome.
wish you luck with your everything.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for watching. And remember, for the next 7 days, for 5 minutes, just do nothing. Do nothing. Right?